everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Cosmic Chats. We have a fabulous guest today, all the way from New Zealand, the people who really didn't have to deal with quarantine. This is Rhi. She is a single mama, entrepreneur, is the founder of RaisingAMumma, and everybody, let's raise up the mama that's here. Say hi, Rhi.
Hello.
Can you give us a few Kiwi phrases for hello?
Oh, kia ora is native, that's Māori, yeah. And what else do we say? Sup? What's up? Sup?
Sup translates across hemispheres and oceans, right?
Completely, you're so right.
So she is a single mom and she has started her own business up here. And we're going to get into more of that stuff. But she's going to remind you what's important to is to what?
Like and subscribe.
Share if you care. First question. How would you describe the taste of a banana to someone who's never eaten one?
You know, I think the taste of a banana isn't really about the taste at all. I think it's the texture. I think it's in the texture. The texture is, if you had to narrow down a taste, I think you'd have to say that it has a sweet kind of caramelizing taste, but it's about the texture. It's soft, it's squishy, it's goodness.
You are not the first person to talk about caramelization. And with that, we had our wonderful actress, Rebecca Metz, who just talked about that as well. So if you haven't checked that video out, check that one out. But if you subscribe, you'll be able to check it out. Next question. As a mama, you are very aware now of your child and how they look at the world. And it's almost like this portal back to when you were a kid. Do you remember having a change in your perception, which we call it your existential life crisis as a child, and you had a shift?
You know, I don't remember one as a child. I have, since becoming a mama, I've certainly experienced that with kind of my identity and, you know, who I am and how to bring part of my woman into my role as a mama, but I wouldn't say that I've had one or that I can remember as a child, but definitely kind of the identity and life crisis after a relationship breakup, and who am I now without this relationship, when I became a mama, and you know, bringing that woman that I had discovered after that period into my role as a mama. And then I've also just started embracing my curly hair, and that's also a bit of an identity crisis too.
Okay. Curly hair has a life.
Curly hair, don't care.
Yeah, okay, so I just sit like this for a minute. That's exactly what happens. If I did wrong way, there you go. We never know how it's going to turn out. I need my own personal stylist just to look acceptable to most.
If I could go to the hairdressers every day before I had to face the world, that'd be fabulous.
So there are no moments where you possibly were dealing with a teacher and you had put them on a pedestal or viewed them in a certain way that an event happened and you shifted your perception?
You know, I have such a terrible memory when it comes to, you know, life in general. I'm kind of a live forward person, so even, you know, when I'm looking at photos and things, I just don't have a recollection of these things. I don't know whether it's like a mental block or, you know, an energy block or whatever, but I just have such a terrible memory. I am more okay, let's move forward, but that might be all of my Capricorn energy too.
So you've talked about how you went through a breakup with the father, correct, of your daughter?
No, so plot twist. So I was in a relationship for 6 years. We were engaged, and we lived overseas together. And we separated after that 6 years, and after that relationship ended, as I was going through my kind of who am I now, I traveled for a year. and really found myself, connected with myself, and just had the time of my life. And when I arrived home, I discovered that I was pregnant. So we have my passport expired on her due date. So if that wasn't a universal sign that, you know, life is changing and I'm on a new journey now, I don't know what was. So yeah, I have navigated my motherhood experience. My daughter Emilia just turned 2 last week. And so I've navigated it solo. Her father has chosen not to be involved. He's based in the US and I'm here in New Zealand. So very grateful for family support and the community that we have. But yeah, we just go along with life and live life on our own terms, and we don't know any different.
So when you found out that you were pregnant, how did you change? How did that then hit you with, well, I guess it was a Mack truck, shall we say?
It was a surprise. Yeah. So the question was, how did I adjust? Yeah, so for a long while, actually, I again, with my kind of move forward energy, I was just like, okay, this is what's happening now. We just kind of move forward. And that actually really hindered kind of that healing and that processing part of that journey, with coming to terms with, okay, this is life, this is what it's going to be like, and really just shifting. I was just so focused on, okay, this is what I have to, you know, deal with, this is what I'm choosing. And I just moved forward. So it wasn't until actually probably 9 months to a year into Emilia's life that I had to then, you know, look back and reflect on that time when I was like, crap, you know, like this is where I am, and it really had to do a lot of healing around that. So it was only retrospective that I made that adjustment, because I was just so focused on, okay, this is life now, this is how we have to move forward. So yeah.
You went around the world after a breakup. Did you have any moving forward ideas of what you wanted to do before you found out you were pregnant?
I did, and they were all curtailed, but that's okay, because life happens that way, and the universe has way better plans than even the ones that we can imagine ourselves. So I imagined that I would have, so I spent part of the period that I was away, I worked in a US summer camp and absolutely loved it. And I really kind of found my feminine energy and really loved that connection with the girls. And it was based in Vermont, and it was beautiful. And I thought that I would go back for a following summer. And I had big ideas of dreams of, in some capacity, working with the team for in a full-time capacity. And I would make being a big kid my job. So life has been a bit different since then, and it's definitely taken a different path, but it's definitely one that's led me more into myself and into my purpose. So all worth it.
Were you actually wanting to immigrate to the US?
That had been a part of the thought process. And then I wasn't sure about it. I looked into the visa stuff, and it for a person in my position, it was actually a bit difficult to get there. So I thought about other ways that I could achieve that, and I could actually do what I wanted to do aside from being the kind of on-site over the summer period. I could do the work that I wanted to do remotely. I could do that anywhere. So just with developing programs for the girls and more of that kind of behind the scenes stuff in the preparation for camp. So but all of that work has now stemmed into what I'm doing now. So it's all all worked out.
Yes, it seems like there was just a shift. And if we look back now, we're doing this in June of 2021. And in the last year and a bit, the US has been very much subject to lockdown restriction, whereas in New Zealand, you have been restricted to your island most of the time, but your life has not been impacted as much as we have found here, and you may not have been able to go to the park with her so much, do much activity? I know people here have been having a terrible time with children.
Yeah, I can imagine. We
and
did, I will correct you just really quickly. So we did have a lockdown. So if for 8 weeks we were confined to our homes, and we had what we called bubbles. So we could, if you were a single person, you could invite somebody else into your bubble, but that was kind of the exclusivity of your contact with other humans. And so for 8 weeks we did that. We could go out for exercise, but we weren't to go 5Ks out of our neighborhood. So we discovered beautiful walks on within our radius, and they've now become part of our routines now, and I've really kind of integrated that slow living into what we're doing now. But we did, and we've definitely seen, you know, definitely not on the same scale. You know, obviously the people, the population makes it a little bit different. So we have definitely been restricted to our island, and we've just opened to Australia, but that's now also on the back burner for the minute. So there's kind of like this transition into to normal life, and then there's that kind of retraction of, oh, so it's a bit stop and start at the moment. But we've definitely been well looked after by our government, and definitely kind of protected, I suppose, from on our little island.
Yes, 2 months, of course, but not the same as it's been for the last year and what's happened in other places in the world, such as Victoria in
You're
Australia,
so right.
had a very, very restrictive.
Everyone's had a tough time.
And they're back again in that as we speak. So when you've now integrated basically all your skills you were going to use at this camp for what you're moving forward with now with your daughter, if you were to impart your perception change of the world, because you have a child that you, I would imagine, want to make it a better place for.
100%. We have to leave things better than we found them.
Yes, and that's one of the lovely elements of mainly the Maori influences, to leave the land better than they found it, which I wish the whole world would do. What have you changed in your behavior in regards to globally with your perception as a result of having a little one?
It's definitely been part of my own journey, and it's like it's reflected back in my own journey to do with my identity and being fully in my own essence, and how I grew up. I felt very in a mold, in a kind of formal structure, and like I should live in a certain way and abide by rules and guidelines and things and fit into this mold. And I'm realizing that actually I wasn't born to fit in a mold, and so I am taking that on board with my daughter, and this is where my business has stemmed from as well, about helping women embrace who they are and turn up and show up unapologetically as themselves. And that's one thing that I've taken into my parenting, is actually observing my daughter Emilia's, you know, behaviors and her traits and characteristics, and rather than squashing them, really embracing them, and trying to find ways that I can, you know, consciously parent and manage her, our own boundaries and my expectations of behavior and things, while still maintaining herself and who she is, and how she will then, you know, go and influence the world in her own way.
A big part of that, of you changing the rules, where do you find yourself having a conversation rather than telling a child to sit down and be quiet and behave?
I think it's all in, you know, my own conditioning, you know, like, does she actually need to sit down? You know, is there there's a fine you know, a fine line between a boundary and a control, you know. Does she need to sit down? Does the situation require that she be quiet, you know, or is that just my own conditioning? You know, we went through a supermarket, and she had this favorite story, And in the story, the cat lets out this big, ginormous meow, and that was her favorite story. And we went around the supermarket, and we went down the cat food aisle, and she saw the cats and started this big shriek of meow. And for the remainder of our time around the supermarket, she continued to meow. And we walked past an older lady, and just her kind of look of, displeasure in what was going on. And I was just like, you know what, it doesn't matter. I wasn't embarrassed. I didn't worry about her judgment, and Amelia was just having a good time, and she was being joyful, and I didn't worry about what anybody else was thinking. And was a supermarket an appropriate place for her to be roaring like a cat? Probably not. But where is there an appropriate place?
So let's shift a little bit about some specifics with your daughter, and how we are dealing with racial issues globally, and your complexion does not match that of your child.
That is correct.
Has your perception, especially with what's happened in the last year, with what's gone on with COVID, made you more sensitive, changed anything? Are you wanting to sort of get your arms ready, or do more education of yourself with the elements that you might not even be aware of that she may face, that you never had to?
Yeah, and that's where it is for me, is I don't know what those challenges might be for her. So her skin at the moment is caramelizing by the day, and it's beautiful. Excuse me. And that's where it is for me, is in that I don't know what she might face. So it is around that education and exposing myself to conversations, and to resources, and people who have walked that path before and can provide guidance and support. And I have been really conscious, in her, in the things that we have around the home. So I have dolls that have the same or similar complexion as her, as well as, a full spectrum of those. And when I'm choosing stories for her, books, sorry, I call them stories, I make sure that she is reflected in those as well. And when we're buying gifts for other people as well, that's also something that I'm conscious of, so that it's not something that we just do, but something that we encourage across our community as well.
And part of Raising a Mumma is allowing globally now, because everyone is much more online as a result of COVID, to reach out to individuals who are similar situations to yourself in a safe environment. What would be a token that you would want to impart if there was a new mum in the same situation as yourself when the other parent decided to opt out of participating?
I was reflecting on this recently, because I don't actually kind of publicize or really speak about the fact that I'm a solo mama. And I guess that's part of just my kind of move forward with the situation, mentality. And someone approached me in that exact situation and said, hey, look, this is the same situation that I'm about to embark on. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is actually a part of my own journey that I feel, a duty to talk about. And I hadn't been. And so that was a real kind of reflection moment for me. And it is the first and kind of most important thing is you have so much more strength than you know. And the outward approval that sometimes a relationship and others can that you can seek from those people, actually that exists within you, and the connection that you can have with yourself and the strength that you can have to rise up is more than you could possibly imagine in where you are right now. And yeah, I would, my unsolicited advice, because mums are really good at giving that, is that lean on your community, find a community, and have the utmost confidence and faith in yourself that you can and you will.
And what did you do to find community?
I found that I've resisted community a lot. I am by nature a lone wolf. I'm very happy to be in my own company, but I looked into my so I have a great family network, but outside of that, I really needed people who understood the mental health components that I was dealing with as a new mama. I really needed people who understood the kind of the life path where I was, the newborn phase, and kind of navigating that as a new mum. So I looked into community groups, and I joined a mums and bubs group that was for women who had babies within the same, or within a kind of month or about birth date. So we were all literally going through the same things together, and we met once a week, and it's been amazing. So our children are now 2 or almost 2. And we still have a group chat, and we still connect with each other. We had a couple of the children come to my daughter's birthday, and we've been to a couple of birthdays with their children as well. And it's been beautiful, and it's been one of the kind of surprising places that I didn't expect to find, because I resisted it so much. I was like, I don't need this, I'm fine, I've got it. But actually having those women to call on and to just say, hey, my baby's experiencing this, like, are you know, is something similar happening for you, was so beneficial. And the community that we've created and the support that we provide each other is amazing. When someone's having a hard day, a hard time, they lean into the group, and we just, you know, we surround each other with love and support, and it's the most incredible thing.
You talked earlier about mental health. How do you help ground yourself? Many mums have a behavior of they are the be all and end all of that child. You had brought it up a little earlier about the fine line between control, right, and actually being present in what occurs. How do you then impart, as you're changing your upbringing with your daughter from restraints that you feel are no longer needed, cultural, right, societal ones that were put upon you, how do you impart to her to go in and deal with her wellness, right, mental wellness as an example?
And I think that's the answer right there, isn't it? Like the best example that we can be is the proof. And so we get out every day for a walk. We ground ourselves by being in nature. And a friend recently shared a beautiful practice that she does with her daughter before she goes down for a nap. And I've just started doing that, a similar practice with my daughter. And she goes outside before a nap, and they'll just sit together, and they'll just listen, and they'll talk about the things that they can hear. So her daughter is just 6 months old. So, you know, for her, it's about, you know, connecting to words and sounds and things like that. And when she shared it with me, I was floored. It was just such a beautiful way to ground yourself. And child.
There we go, without fail. Something fun is happening without me.
I know, right? And we've got visitors at the moment as well, and she is tall enough to open the door, so we may also have some guests on the show as well.
Lovely. Do you put aside quiet time for yourself though?
100%. So Emilia goes to daycare 1 day a week, and that day is my day for me. I don't do housework. I don't do anything that comes with the word should before it. And I dedicate that day for myself, whether that be rest, whether that be going to coffee with a friend. But honestly, because of my hermit nature, it's generally just hanging out at home, reading and journaling, and just kind of being in my own presence and my own energy. But I 100% prioritize that day for myself.
Beautiful. Well, if you want to find out more from Rhi and what she's doing, all of the information will be in the description. Please subscribe and like and add your comments, especially if you are relating to anything that she's talking about, dealing with the new wave of parenting and her community and how you can be a part of it. Her goal is to have a global network and helping people out. And with that, we'll come back and look forward to part 2. We'll say bye-bye.